This is the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. I'm Michael.
And I'm Matt. In this podcast, we're going to discuss growing companies, automation and manufacturing,
and how we're building the lives and businesses we want to see in the world.
Matt and Michael back on the map here. We're going to kick it off, as always, general feelings of the weeks, follow that up with some sales and marketing, what's happening in our engineering and R&D departments, how we're updating our companies for really continuous improvements, become leaner, and increase efficiency or velocity on our floors. And lastly, there's usually something personal about us or a challenge the other one gives the other to kind of level up or focus back on the business. It's all too easy for us to become in the business when we need to be on it. So how is Michael feeling this week?
A little bit overwhelmed, I would say. Being on those kind of hectic interload installs. I mean, there was just a lot going on, a lot of travel, trying to stay on top of sales. Obviously, my calendar was, all blocked off. Somehow someone still managed to schedule a discovery call during that time, which I don't even know how Calendly did that.
I've had similar events where I don't know how people got things put in, but it happens.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, it's frustrating because I know how much it costs us to get a lead, right? It's like, okay, we spent $500 in advertising dollars on that lead, and then, But anyways, yeah, stuff happens.
So do you reschedule it then, or?
They didn't. Usually, I think I've had that happen like 2 other times, and the other 2 times it rescheduled. But it's so exceedingly rare for us to miss meetings.
That's actually an interesting comment, and I'll come back to that when we get to sales and marketing. I'll let you finish your general feelings.
For sure. Yeah, just a general feeling of kind of overwhelm. And not in a bad way, just in a kind of busy way. And then there's also been, I think, a little bit of both excitement and the feeling of necessity to start making improvements across our product line. No, they're mostly little things. Mostly little things.
All right, good deal.
And I'm changing some of our Kanban philosophy to try to make, I've been watching some of our guys do assembly, and I've seen all the ways that I can simplify it and make the process easier. I've noticed picking the components is a big pain point. So I've started to personally experiment with kitting, kind of like you would do in an automotive assembly line. And I'm going to see how that goes. I'm kind of starting to introduce that. And then, as you can imagine, I spent, probably half a day, less time than I had said I was going to starting to scope out the extra load system, the newest simplified version.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, it's been a good week, just busy, I guess. Yeah, that's kind of where I am.
Okay. I got a couple questions when we get to those departments. So just making some notes. For me, mine has been the complete opposite, Michael. My week has been very much, maybe not idle, but it's been step back strategic focus where I've had time to do that. And same thing with the team. It's been really energizing to have several team members where they have idle capacity. And like, I had one team member actually just this morning, it's a really good quote where like he was going through the CIs for the department and he's like, Matt, I'm looking at these things are all things that we really want to have and based on what we kind of knew, but he's like, I'd personally like to just bring everybody back together because we went through all these CIs and as a whole department, now knowing our mission that we've been talking about for the last, really once we pushed the long-term vision at the beginning of the year here, he's like, we know that and we're seeing how we're trending. How do we look at how we get the department there and really zoom out? It was really encouraging to see team members thinking that way rather than just going down the CI list. So that's actually some of the entire mechanical engineering department's meeting to focus on that. So it's just, for me, I'm really excited, if you will, or just like, I don't know the right word, but just pleased that my team's looking at how we get this business to where we want it to be without me needing to ask all the probing questions. They're
right. Yeah.
They're like getting exactly what I have in the back of my mind without me saying it, which is a really weird place to be in. And it's, I don't know, really exciting.
Yeah, that's super exciting. So random question, because it sounds like you have a lot of breathing room right now. Do you guys experience like a summer sales slump? Because I was listening to Jay and Andrew Henry's podcast. Jay had mentioned a summer sales slump. We see a sales slump generally this time of year. Do you see that in the more custom?
Um, Historically, March has always been our worst month in terms of sales and cash flow.
Yep.
That's like, if I look back in time, that's always been our worst. Now, I would also say historically, our CapEx spending with most of our clients typically happens towards the end of the year. So
Yeah.
we're bidding, and then we're end up closing a bunch in waves, is what I've seen
Hmm.
historically. But I think I've always kind of chalked that up to, hey, we're a smallish business and we're just kind of getting some of our projects are in that end of year CapEx schedule. So it'll be really interesting to see as we get bigger. If say we're 25 million in the next 5 years here, and we're closing all 25 million in the last quarter, it's going to be an interesting ride.
Right.
But so I don't know, but historically that's been the trend, is it's always been end of Q3, Q4 is the bulk of our sales.
Yeah. Because I think it's exacerbated because our project scope is generally smaller, so people make the decisions faster. Kind of
Yeah.
February, March is the worst for sure. And then uh, yeah, kind of I think July, August is the second worst. It's not nearly as low, right? And typically that's when, we're kind of now experiencing having much less time and material work. So without that consulting, I'm feeling the waves more, right?
Oh, for sure.
Which is definitely there. And we're backfilling some of those things with, existing milestone-based larger turnkey projects. But that's just something that's on my mind. And especially this time of year, we have so many interload leads and they just seem a little harder to close quickly, I guess. And, because it's, they're scoping it out and it's, hey, we're going to do this, in November or December.
Yeah, it's an interesting, I mean, we're kind of rolling right into sales and marketing, and those were some of the things I have on here. I mean, I have one customer that's been allegedly going to sign for the last like week and a half, 2 weeks here. And it's been, oh, I have to get this one other piece of paperwork done. And I believe him. Like,
Right.
it's just, he's in a big corporation, and he goes in front of his management, and he's like, I find out they need one more thing. And he's like, he was on the phone with me last night, and you could just tell he's like, he's wore out on he just wants to buy the dang thing.
Yeah.
He's like, Matt, I hope, he's like, I was told this is the last formality, but I got to do it. And I'm like, all right, I get it. Like, let me know what I can do to help. But yeah, it's interesting. And so some of that might be just the larger organizations. And so, or is it just a way to push off the sale? They just have them do one. Hey, we don't have the cash right now. We're going to push this off another 1 to 2 weeks.
Yeah, you can't tell. And I will say we've done work with very huge corporations who just put it on a credit card and move on. Right. So a lot of it's like the culture of how much bandwidth do they give and who is the person who is purchasing the system. Right.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then we've had the
yours can
ones
go
like
on
you're
a credit
talking
card.
about where it's, back and forth, buyer, project scoping, negotiations on terms, like, and where it's just brutal. And I've had some of those take 3 or 4 months to close a $50,000-$60,000 deal, which,
Yeah. And so
yeah.
we're through all the terms.
Hmm.
We've handshaken on all the paperwork.
Yeah.
Like, now he just needs to ink it and get it approved. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to change anything if you're good here. And he's like, yes, I'm good. Let's go. And so then he's going in to run it up the ladder, and he's getting hit with all the other things.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's nearly $1 million project. So I understand that there's steps to the process.
Yeah, for
But
sure. Any other sales and marketing stuff from you this week?
I have another project that's the exact same way. Fourth tier of management review. That was the one on site
Uh-huh.
last week. Went really well. Gave them a list of resources. They're now making calls based on that. So we'll see how that all plays out. Otherwise, there's a bunch of in general project or product development that we're running through that we're evaluating. The exciting thing is the automation assessment video is now live on YouTube.
Mm.
So we've got that where it breaks down our three package options. So we've got our coaching that we've been talking about, how we'll basically, if you're new to automation, get an understanding of your business, help kind of guide you, ask questions to lead you, if you will, on an automation journey. The other one being the automation roadmap, where we'll come in and do the work for you. If you just don't have the bandwidth, or you just want somebody to come in and tell you where you can automate, we can build those out. The other one's the partnership program, which they're all described in the video, so I won't take the thunder.
Yeah, we got to get back on the YouTube train too. I mean, our content is so outdated now that our products have been through, I don't know, 3, 4 additional revs on average.
What's
Making, uh-huh.
No, go for it. Yeah.
No. We'll go ask the
I
question.
would say it's interesting how fast that happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And usually, because we have these custom projects, we'll do a $50,000-$60,000 turnkey. A lot of those things will get developed for a one-off, and then we just kind of roll them into a project, so that we're not
Mm-hmm.
eating the R&D costs. And we've done that so many times now. And like, for instance, even just this week, we revamped our Axis Air rubber union, just because we sold a big chunk to a distributor of rubber unions. And I'm like, okay, I want to make an improvement to this project before we make 15 of them, right? And
How
because,
many how
uh-huh,
many units? Well, so 15 units.
yeah. But they're $1,500 a pop.
Okay.
And with those guys, I mean, typically we move 3 a month, right? So, suddenly having, it kind of blew past our Kanban polls and created, those little issues.
Are you potentially just increasing the risks? I know it's great to continue to make improvements on products. Are you potentially imposing other risks or reducing trust with customers by continuously making changes? If like, hey, I ordered 3 of these last month, they look like this. Now I get this and they look like this.
So
That
the
that would be
trick is
concerning if
that
I'm on the customer
the trick
side.
is that we disclose it. So, after the order, we emailed them and say, hey, do you want the new version? Right? It's more adjustable. It does all the same things. It has upgraded metal fittings everywhere. And they said, of
Okay.
course, right? And we've had people say, no, thanks, right? So basically what we do is, if there's any issues, we have, generally, because we're iterating so fast, we have, like, say we move gripper iterations. Chances are I have stock of 20 of that gripper and, like, the individual components that are sitting in one of the, like, reserve bins of the old product revs, right? So they're, like,
Got it.
organized in old Kanban bins, and we just start selling the new ones. So we have enough to support. And if something breaks, if there's a, God forbid, a manufacturing defect or something on an old rev, and it were to get too aged out, we just replace it with a new version, right? So, um, yeah, I mean, honestly, it depends on the product, but I I've only seen people very positive about that approach, of giving them improved versions proactively.
Who's your customer that you're selling that to would be my question, because as I move more and more up market with larger and larger
Yep.
corporations, they want consistency. Like
Hmm.
I think we've talked about the marketing book, Crossing the Chasm. Like they want to know I've done the exact same thing for several other clients
Yep.
and I'm maybe tweaking it per ISO standards, but I'm not putting a turbo on the engine, if you
Sure.
will. I'm replacing some air fittings.
I guess that depends what the product is. And the Axis Air, because the volume is so low, was kind of one of the last products to get this treatment, right?
Okay.
And honestly, it needed these design changes just to become better manufacturability. We moved a piece of water jet and machined component to sheet metal, which obviously is way cheaper and faster to produce and easier to outsource. And I think most of these things, we just kind of stop iterating once we're really happy and all of our customers are 100% happy. And there's like little triggers that we have built in. If we ever get 2 complaints on a product, that's really our trigger. Like, okay, let's send this to engineering and put it on our Notion board and say, does this need a design rev change? And of course, there's a separate customer service thing of making sure those people, get their thing fixed or get happy. And
Okay.
oftentimes, we go through those improvements so fast, we'll just exchange the whole thing with a new version. But the I always focus on the negatives and getting the product to the point where I have 0 complaints, and then we
Oh
tend to
yeah.
leave it. Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. When you're in service, you don't need pats on your back. You need people to tell you why they don't like working with you so you have satisfied customers.
Yeah, and there's like design rev changes that people aren't even seeing, right? Like we added all these dowel pins to our grip lip grip modules so we don't have to tram in the vices anymore.
Got
But,
it.
but our customers don't see that. It's physically hidden under the vice, right?
Yeah. Perfect.
Any other
That's quite a
stuff?
bit of sales.
Yeah, I know we kind
Marketing?
of jumped into engineering.
No, I guess, do you have anything sales you want to cover other than that? Otherwise, kind of some
Yeah.
marketing stuff?
So sales, we got our new SEO guy kind of started to be onboarded, and I need to take a deep dive with him and make sure that we're, actually starting to move the needle with SEO. We took just tons and tons of video content at the various Intraload installs. We did a shop walkthrough with you, and we did 2 other video shop walkthroughs. I visited, one other customer, as well as, one guy I just know from Instagram. And, it's honestly kind of daunting to like, oh shoot, now we need to edit this 4 hours of footage and schedule it. And
How do you edit it?
well, right now Priscilla's editing, but it's primarily all designed around this short format, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube
Would you use
Shorts.
like DaVinci? Do you use some other tools? What are you
So when
using?
I was
Adobe?
doing it, we used DaVinci, right? But now I'm no longer doing the editing, and so Priscilla has never done one of these long format videos, so that's kind of a new thing that we're gonna have to transition. I was
Yeah,
using DaVinci, but I was never really happy with it, and I tried to outsource the video editing, but we are yet to find a great freelance video editor, which I think is definitely something I'm interested in finding.
yeah.
So we have those that are kind of we have a slog of content we have to get through, and I want to get back to doing actual detailed YouTube videos like we did in the early days of gimbal automation. And then I think the biggest thing that we've been working on is Priscilla's trying to build out everything properly in our HubSpot pipeline, breaking everything out into pipelines for an intro-load customer versus a 2-op customer versus a 1-op customer, and starting to look at properly doing automations, scheduling tasks, semi-automatically, triggering follow-ups, triggering calls, because it is just getting way too much to live in my head. And also, as the business has been going on longer and longer, we'll just randomly get calls from a lead that came, was 7-8 months ago. They're like, we
Oh
want to
yeah,
buy this now. And I don't even remember who it is or what the deal was, right? So definitely having an actual system in place is becoming like critical at this point.
for sure. Okay.
Yeah. Um, I've been thinking a little bit about like shop walkthroughs, and I'm still kind of torn. Um, and we had talked about me potentially like piggybacking on the idea of your automation assessment and doing something that fits my business model better. I'm
Mhm.
still torn on how to implement that, because on the one hand, like for every one slam dunk lead out of these shop walkthroughs, I'm having maybe I would say an average of 2 like kind of total waste of times. And
It's an 80/20, Michael. Having done a lot of on-site visits, it's 2 out of 10 of the ones that you're going for.
yeah,
The other 8 are you had to go through all of them to get to the 2.
right. But I think where I'm at is like I'm not at the point where I want to yet bring in an outside sales rep, right? I think there's a lot that we can do. I have engineering and other staffing needs I need to fill before we get there. Um, so if I'm doing it, I think that's kind of the question. Like, yeah, at some point we need to have that outside rep who can drive an hour there and have the hour long conversation and drive an hour back, right? But in the short term, I'm like, am I better off just spending that time on marketing and SEO and YouTube videos, and then spending, if I do 3 site visits in a week, let's say they're all an hour away, that's 9 hours, right? Am I better off spending 5 hours on marketing and then doing one more video call, right? That's kind of what I'm trying to figure out on the marketing front.
I wish I knew the answer there for you, but I'm battling with the same things of how do we continue to increase our content, because there's only so much education you can talk generically about. Our agency pitched an idea that I'm toying with. I will probably bring it up in a future podcast for a way to help with our content. So if you have ideas, I'm all ears, but like for develop to help more content, because I think we're both in the same boat. But for your sales on the road, oh man, I don't know.
I'm kind of
It's
taking the
tough.
position like if it's a very good lead I've already had a discovery call with, within an hour I'll do it. But
Yeah.
that's a pretty narrow constraint, right? So the
Something we're
uh,
testing right now for ads is running local ads that are
mm,
saying we'll do no site visits. So
right,
that might be something you want to do then, is if you're willing to do that, is say, all right, we did a 100-mile radius. If you're within a 100-mile radius, we're running free assessment ads. Basically as a, let's do some more local business,
right.
because it gets frustrating continuing to deploy machines all across the nation. I'd like to just do more in our back door.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's been something we're trying to just get our local business on.
Yeah.
So that might help you.
But yeah, I mean, sales and marketing is, we're like dialing in closer, but I feel like there's just so much to do still. And the just trying to go after the lowest hanging fruit right now. I think a lot of my head is actually right now in improvements in production and execution. And although I've been doing a ton of sales and marketing stuff, it's kind of been the general stuff that, has been on track to be finished, as opposed to like, new initiatives and overhauling things, right?
Yeah, I think we were both kind of pulled out at the beginning of this year. We are still on execution and just getting the sales done that we had in our pipeline.
Yep.
I mean, we have 2 trade shows coming up in October, and I've barely prepped for them, and those are things that got to start getting rolling.
Yeah, we have a MD&M, or no, West Tech in October, and then MD&M in February, and we've done no prep, which is scary, right? So we want to have a functioning intraload demo on the floor there,
Oh,
which
cool.
has to be built
Yeah,
and has to be designed, and luckily we build most of that in house, but it's still daunting and there and on timeline.
I'll be curious to learn more about West Tech. Hear what you think about that, because that's been on our radar to potentially go to that one, and the
Yep.
MD&M West one. We're doing the MD&M Midwest, the one in Minnesota.
So for West Tech, I would just say it's a mini IMTS. I would actually really encourage you to go to West Tech. And MD&M West, I'm not super sure about because I've never been to that show. The I will say I think it's more overall more likely aligned to your industry than mine. I mean, it's a medical show, right? I believe.
Yeah, it's more medic. It's on our industrial product is the way
Yeah.
we're looking at it, or uh, products that are machines is the way we're looking
Gotcha.
at
Yep.
going into that show. Yeah, West Tech is
Yeah. Well, I
interesting to
mean, you
hear it as
also
a
didn't
light end.
go to IMTS, so
Yeah,
the
I'm not a huge IMTS fan for our
yeah,
business. Because I think it's too focused on CNC machining, which isn't our target market.
right, which is exactly our target market.
Yeah,
Um,
so I don't know is that what West
West
Tech.
Tech's technically like that's the intent, but in practice, there's a lot of packaging from when I last went to it. But that was a while ago as well. That was probably what 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know the exact amount of time, but it's been a while since I've been to West Tech.
Wonder if I should just fly out for this thing and walk it.
I would do that at a minimum if I were you. Or we'll probably take video of it, and I can probably get a feel of whether it makes sense for you. We can talk about it after.
Yeah, that'd help me. I was just trying to look at who's exhibiting at it even, because that's usually been a good indicator. Is like,
Yeah.
there's a couple key companies that if I don't, or if they're there, it usually makes sense.
Yeah, like on first pass with MD&M, I don't actually think you would think it was a good fit for us looking at the exhibitors. But then I also have that knowledge that, at least with spindle grippers especially, there's kind of this inherent thing where people think they're only capable of doing small parts. So what that results in is we get tons of medical and firearm and knife parts, and of course aerospace.
Hmm.
And because of that, because of people's perceptions, we end up doing a lot of these medical component turnkeys for whatever medical manufacturer who has their own machinery, right? So I think it makes sense, but obviously you have to do the show and wait the 8 months after the show to see if it ROIs.
Yeah, I'm just curious because it does look very machine heavy. Like
I
even
would say probably if you don't want to go to IMTS, you probably don't want to go to West Tech.
uh,
Now that I think
I'm
about it.
looking at the list. Like I
Okay.
just curious looked up automation and robot. Everything that comes up has like Trinity Robotics
Yeah.
or is something related to machine tending.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I question if this is right for develop.
Okay. Well, we can keep going. Probably not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is part of
Yeah.
pod, I would think. But yeah, okay.
Cool. Any other sales and marketing, or should we move on?
I think there was trade shows behind. No, that's about it for sales and marketing for us, engineering and R&D.
Do you want to start there?
Our conveyor's built and it's awesome.
Yay.
It's a very simple product, but holy crap, is it an amazing CI for develop to be now manufacturing all of our motor driven roller conveyors.
That's
So
awesome.
basically anything that's between 3 feet will go down to and up to 10 feet. And their 10 feet are two 5-footers put together. But that's the way we're looking at it. Roller conveyors will be making those. We've got them figured out. It looks like we're only going to have, so this was Rev 1. And to prove out I mean, it's a simpler design in general, but in general, our manufacturing and our engineering review process, it looks like we're only going to have to make a 1B to it. And 1A would have been more than shippable. It's more or less like we wanted it just better.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that feeling. The
So
when we got the intraload to the point where it functioned really well, I think that took us 3 internal revs, right? When we sold the very first unit to a customer, we immediately made a Rev 3B, right?
yeah,
So I totally get it.
it's just like we said about the HMI, what we're on Rev 2C now is what we're going on to, which is, it is what it is.
Yeah, I love that HMI. I still want you to do the orange anno. I know you think I'm crazy there, just to get the developed brand colors.
I don't, so it goes against a lot of my brand language or design taste.
Well, like you have everything else like matte black, right? And then just that orange, like it provides a contrast.
Yeah, I'm still.
I know you are. Yeah.
I kind of cringe at that.
If we've been moving more and more to stainless parts to really get like that premium feel in our products. But
it is funny you say that, but I'll let you keep going because I got a comment then.
But like on our aluminum parts, if I could get a very consistent, unique blue, right? This is a big if. I would do that exact brand color on every anode part. And I also have that complication of, okay, we're moving all these parts to stainless. So, that kind of interrupts the problem. It's going to get too busy if we have, matte black on stainless on like an anodized blue. But I think having that brand color that just says, company name XYZ, there's a lot of value in that. I mean, Shunk has that kind of weird off gray. What is it? Air Turbine Tools has their own kind of weird shade of blue. But the problem is if the anode mismatches.
Or you change suppliers.
Yeah, and getting that color match is just brutal.
Yep.
Any other engineering R&D stuff for you guys? I know the conveyor was a big one that's been.
Yeah, that was one, and then I'm blanking on something as we sidetracked there. The stainless sheet metal comment you made. It's funny you bring that up because that was a conversation I had with several of our engineers this morning because a pain we've continuously seen, we're having it on a large weldment that's coming in right now. We had it with the entire conveyor. The conveyor was a week late.
Yep.
And it was hung up in powder coat. So I don't recommend it for our conveyor because I don't think that's the right way. But something we talked about because we see this on other parts of our project is speed is the most critical thing.
Yep.
Labor is the biggest part of that speed and those costs associated with it. And it was like, what if instead of doing powder coat on a lot of our parts that are more complex assemblies on function in a machine, we just say it's going to be stainless. We just go to a stainless material and we remove that post-processing, remove that variable from our speed. Granted, our costs of materials go up, but now it's more predictable.
It's a small amount. I mean, especially if the parts are smaller.
Our parts get like, I mean, a lot of our parts, like if I went out on the floor right now for the parts that I think they're thinking of, well, you were here.
If it's a big panel, usually removing the powder coat, it's still cheaper in like a 303 stainless or 304 rather.
Interesting. Okay. So then,
at least in my experience,
a lot of them are the smaller complex bend ones is what we were looking at.
Yeah. Generally, most shops want to do a bigger radius on stainless, which ends up being the actual issue.
I don't think that'd be a problem on most of ours.
Yeah.
Okay. That's been the internal conversations as we were kind of zooming out of where we want to go. And one of the main objectives for develop is building complex machines as fast as possible. The kind of that early metric there is how do we build $1 million machines in under 6 months?
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the stainless thing because literally the Axis Air Design Rev, it was me in SolidWorks for 30 minutes. I designed the sheet metal parts. The next day they're getting water jet in our larger like kind of fab shop. And then they come over here, we, tap them and bend them. And Then we have the little sub-assembly, it's done. What I did though was I timed it to see how long it would take to make the parts, right? Um, and then I did the math, and I'm like, okay, these two parts cost us, $109 to make or something, right? Or it wasn't 109, but it was without powder coat, it's like $79.
Sure.
So then I go to send a cut send, and I put the same part, 10 of each in both stainless and steel with powder coat, and then just raw, and it's $35 a piece. And I'm like, okay, so we're gonna
That's
buy
all
these.
they do.
Yeah, because it's all they do. So I like that mix of having the velocity of being able to do it, doing one for us, and then at that point, going now that the design is proven and tested, then going and outsourcing that to a sheet metal shop.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I'd love to have laser cutting in house and be able to do that in the future, which was where the conversation then went. And it was like, all right, we need this business. We need to grow. When we do the expansion to the 100,000 square foot facility, we'll put a corner towards sheet metal and weld, because weldments are, I swear, the bane of every project's time. Like, it just, you want to
Yeah.
butcher timeline, put a big weldment in it.
Yeah. I know you guys have the TIG welder. Do you have like a guy who specializes or is really good at TIG welding?
No,
No. Oh, that's
that'd be it. The reason I'm saying
Yeah.
no is because I do all the welding.
Oh, geez.
And so, like,
Yep.
the only welding I do is if it needs to be a fast change or it's some small trinkety little thing that it's just easier to have the parts come in and then we just assemble it here. And it's usually, hey, Matt, we need you to weld this. And they laid everything out for me. I walk out there at the end of the day for 20 minutes, tack it all together, and walk home.
Yeah, it's funny because I had mentioned the laser welder. I'm like, oh, we don't really need this. And now that the new version of the extra load is on the horizon, I'm like, oh, we actually really need this.
Okay, cool.
And that also just makes me think, like, man, if you guys are tacking things up or having problems with welding, I would see if you could just find like a laser welder to demo or buy a used one.
It's not the thin stuff for us. It's
No, I know.
few far. I'm talking like 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch plus.
Yeah. So like with
big
a
weldment.
1500 watt laser welder, you'll only penetrate like a 1/4 inch, but it's still significant, still a real weld. But like literally like a 5-year-old could do it because it just takes all the skill out of the weld.
Yeah, I think the challenge there then is we need somebody on the floor that's what they do, rather than pull our engineering resources to it. Ideally, I think you're missing.
I think that's
you
why
didn't
I'm
see some of
actually.
you didn't see some of the weldments that I'm talking about
Okay.
when you're here. Like the
Yeah.
biggest one that you saw was the one that the robot's sitting on.
Mhm.
Maybe like that one's not too crazy, but like we're talking about like weeks, maybe not weeks, but like several days to typically do a lot of our weldments.
Yeah. And you're usually like you're doing weldments in house. Like to what extent?
No,
No?
we shop
Okay.
that all out, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
saying it's the biggest pain, because there was one we had planned on that it was supposed to be 6 weeks. All quotes came back as 12.
Mm-hmm.
We found another supplier. They're going to get it closer to the original, but it was like we have to go back out and chase it. So then we spent another, say, 20, 30 hours of engineering just trying to source the thing.
I would almost wonder, like, there's guys who will come and, for $75 an hour who are expert TIG welders with a TIG welder on the back of their truck, and they'll come weld as a service. And I wonder if you brought those, like, in-house or just tried once, and, you basically, and you pay them per hour or per linear inch, and you build a relationship with one of those guys, maybe that could work really well.
Yeah, that could potentially be an avenue to it, but like I can even go to the frames of like extruded aluminum when we've sourced that for our frames.
Mhm.
Frames are like just tough. Like we order those and then they show up late. Like
every time.
10-week lead time, show up in 14. It's like that was a month.
Mm-hmm.
That was a month. It cost us like your frame cost us 10 grand to buy, but it cost me way more because you didn't deliver on.
That is why for extrusions, we either pay the premium for McMaster to do it, or we cut it and tap it ourselves whenever we're doing them in-house.
Yeah, we've tried different avenues. That's where I'd love to get is what I want to do is build an extrusion processing machine for ourselves, but we need like
Sounds like overkill.
Yeah, we need $500,000 sitting around so we can build the thing.
Sounds like overkill, Matt. That's one of those like big ideas that I'm like, okay.
Yeah, that's a future.
Yeah.
Like I'm living past the now, Michael. I'm not talking about tomorrow.
Good. We're here to sanity check each other.
No, I'm not going to approve that tomorrow.
Any other
Definitely not.
engineering R&D on your front?
Um, Nothing too crazy. Talked about the HMI, tweaks on the conveyor. Engineering is just kind of software and electrical is slammed to the max. And then mechanical is getting this time to step back
Yeah.
and regroup. But granted, mechanical's been slammed for a long time. So it's really nice seeing some team members not being grossly overbooked and stressed, if you will.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Well, I have some engineering R&D stuff. We'll see if you want to push back on it. There's obviously the
yeah.
axis error, but I'm pretty happy I took the time to do that little improvement for this next batch of them. Along with that, I've been experimenting with kitting, which I want to talk about in the CI portion.
Mm-hmm.
But the big one has been the extra load, and I think on Sunday I mentioned I'm going to just put some block out 8 hours and play with the design. And I really realized when we did the original extra load, I kind of just gave one of our engineers free realm to just design it. And it was this giant victim of feature creep, right? Now we have this like super nice enclosure and these like, LEDs everywhere and 2,000 safety interlocks and
2000.
not 2,000, but like a safety interlock on safety interlock on safety interlock. And I was like, well, what is the mission of this? And I kind of landed on like, okay, we want to build like, a multi-level DN solutions, AWC system, or an Aroa system, or a Trinity system, and we want to do it for 60 grand, right? Like that's the mission. And I asked myself how to do that, and I'm like, okay, you don't build an enclosure, you put light curtains there, right? Which is what like Haas is doing. They threw a Fanuc robot and light curtains around it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, and then the next big thing is that the kinematics are simple, and I don't want to get into details of it, but I found a way to get like all of that turret RZ Theta style robot stuff in kinematics that are like 10 times cheaper to build. It's a really unique kinematic layout that we got to take through the whole provisional and patent process, which is going to be a pain, but that really simplifies the overall cost of building the thing. And basically, it's a whole bunch of shelves and like 5 actuators that all bolt together and go into a PLC and then are locked out by light currents. Like it's super simple.
Yeah.
Originally, we have a bunch of like actuators we use for prototyping, and I was so excited. I just wanted to bolt those actuators on, bolt them together and build a thing. And I knew they weren't going to be like quite rigid enough because they're not wide enough. They're not on true linear rails. And I just came to the conclusion, I'm like, I just need to buy the right ones and wait the 3 weeks for them to come. So I am so excited for that project. But also it has now gone to like the procurement process of evaluating vendors, finding a very, perfectly built out linear actuator with the right servo motor on, the right rack and pinion drive with enough rigidity, and, playing that waiting game. But man, am I excited for the extra load. And also at the same time, I'm proud that I only put in like 5 work hours into this week, for like as obsessed as I've been with it. I put in a lot more than that, on various RFQ sites and digging in procurement after hours, but actual work hours have been, very constrained.
Interesting. Okay. I guess my only concern with it is how is it impacting? Because you're struggling to execute because you're still trying to staff some stuff for your existing sales. That's my only. I don't know if I have a direct comment to that. It's more or less just me thinking out loud a little bit.
Right.
I think I just need to watch how this plays a little bit. Because I know you've said you've done similar things in the past, and that's what's yielded some of your greatest growth, and then you end up just shifting away from previous products.
Right.
It'd be interesting if that's what ends up happening, and then rather than even solving those problems, they just are no longer problems.
Well, that's the CI thing I want to talk about, and that's been a general shift in how I've thought about vendors, consultants, and full-time employees.
Okay.
Do you want to roll into CIs? Is that our next
I'm
section?
good with that. Yeah, I have no more R&D.
So there's kind of 2 big things that I guess are on my mind this week in terms of continuous improvements. The first is kitting. So, in automotive, rather than Kanbaning every single individual component, they'll take an entire subassembly and they'll put all the bolts and everything in there.
Yes.
And when I've been watching our guys on the floor picking from individual Kanban bins, I can't tell you, like the most amount of time isn't in the assembly, it's in the picking, right?
So,
Uh-huh.
well, you saw that when you walked our floor, right?
Yep.
So we build everything out on those baker trays. The project lead kits everything, verifies inventory came in, and lays those out for somebody to assemble.
Yep.
Down to the bolt.
Yep. And
It saves so much time.
so I bought a ton of baggies, and with the new implementation of the Access Air, I created the little kits. It's pretty quick to do. Obviously, the assembly takes longer than that. And
Yeah,
I think we're
kitting
just
takes
the kitting's not that bad, actually, and I was surprised.
no.
Someone can probably kit who's a little more experienced 10 of something in the time that it takes, an assembly guy to pick and get like 2 of those assembly parts ready.
Yeah, I think it took for the big ECO that you saw that they're starting to put together,
Yep.
I think I forget how many parts it ended up being. I want to say it was like 4,000 parts or something. He kitted the entire machine in a week.
Yeah.
And now it'll take 3 weeks for team members to assemble those kits.
Yeah. And it just simplifies the Kanban bin so much because now I can have like a banker's box or something of all the constituent components. We Kanban the entire kit, and then we just order the individual subcomponents out, semi-manually, rather than building a unique Kanban card for every bolt and every screw.
Exactly.
So that's super exciting for me. I think that's just an execution thing. But I guess to get back to the other point that we were talking about is my like change in philosophy of staffing, vendors, consultants. Like I've come to get this focus on velocity. When we were down a machinist, we started outsourcing a lot. And when we found like a couple of key machining vendors, we were finding that they were making parts more quickly, better, and less expensively than we could make in-house, right? And okay, awesome, right? Obviously,
Yeah,
China can beat your in-house prices, but by far, but they're going to have problems, and we saw that, and there's massive lead times. And I asked the question, okay, where else can I do this? And we started doing it more and more and more. I've been tracking like how much it takes us to make a given part in-house, like the sheet metal Access Air part, doing the math against, okay, we're going to send this to Send Cut Send or whatever. And I think, a lot more of our internal focus has become marketing, sales, engineering, product development, testing, turnkeys. It's not water jetting and cutting and tapping, right? It's just the assembly of those things.
exactly. Okay.
And we're going so much farther with so much fewer staff. That said, we have multiple consultants that are essentially full-time at this point. Like we have a couple of shops, one, we pretty much give them a full work week every week.
But you have
right?
a fixed cost. You
Correct,
have you only pay on deliverable where
yeah.
that's your expense. So it's predictable to that point. It's
Yeah,
it's
that's
the
the other thing
variable
that's
costs
nice.
that kill businesses. It's not the ones that you planned for. It's all the variables.
Yeah.
Or the missed deadlines.
Yeah, and it being like a variable cost too makes everything so much more flexible. So I'm super excited having taken that route, and I'm doing that more and more and more, having our vendor like going and looking, and even if it costs us 20% more, like there's all the hidden costs that you don't see of having an employee do that thing, and all the lost velocity of having your team handle it. So I'm really just focusing on outcomes, and I think like the choice to not go and build our own actuators, buy the ball screw, buy the linear rails, right, and assemble it, but buy modules kind of ready to go. Like making these kind of decisions is making everything move a lot faster.
Oh yeah, that's the trying to be clever with engineering. Develops definitely learned that in the past, where it's like, hey, we can design this, and it's like it's cheaper. It's like, no, it's never not, because it never works the first time.
Yep.
And you have to re-engineer it. So it's like, why didn't we just buy the $1,000 part, then spend the 10 hours trying to solve the problem? Because we're still, we cost $100 an hour for us to do it. So we're the same, but we lost that opportunity cost, which is technically $1,000 loss at a minimum.
Yeah. And, that's just become a lot of our philosophy is like, okay, maybe we build the first one for velocity reasons, or, we're reworking new components, but generally, we're not going to machine even a prototype part unless there's a good reason to. And the only place I'm still kind of debating is on sheet metal parts. Like I kind of want to buy a CNC press brake, and I think it could change some of our design philosophy. But I want to see, okay, can we just pay Sign Cut Send on Rush to try to keep that feedback loop smaller.
Um, Something that came up when we were kicking off that I put down as a note, and now that we're to the CI section, it's you continuously talk about these are the CIs that you're identifying and the CIs that you're doing. How can you get your team more focused on this, Michael, would be my
Yeah.
question. And so like the sheet metal one would be like, I'm just going to use it as an example. You see this as an opportunity, you know, you need to evaluate it rather than you do the evaluation and procurement. If this is something you want to assign resources to, how do you get somebody else to do that evaluation and own that entire process for you? Because I think it'll help your culture, and I think it'll also help free up your time so you can be on other higher leverage tasks. Because I think you need to get the culture in of your team looking for these CIs.
Yeah. I think there's a couple different elements. I mean, we definitely need to get another mechanical engineer, right? Like that's kind of where my head is at there.
Okay.
Um, I think the biggest problem, in all honesty, is like we've still been playing catch up, and I think a lot, there's these changes that get made that can be a little bit destructive in a way, right? Like if I go in and re-engineer the access air, and we still have like the old version, and if no, they haven't been like properly Kanban or kitted yet, that then creates like this confusion on the floor of like, am I sending the old access air? Am I sending the new access air? Right? Um, those kind of things I think are still kind of what we're working against. And generally, it's not that those improvements aren't getting made; it's that they're being localized to those kind of fixes. Um, right? And it'll be okay. The guy on the floor is going to Kanban the thing, make sure that they know whether they're going to send out the old version or the new version, and fix that thing that was broken, right? Um, as opposed to doing a whole new initiative. It's almost like they're kind of cleaning up some of the CI mess that I'm leaving as time goes on.
Yeah. So what's happening is your team members, I'm just thinking out loud, because they don't know, but they've come to the assumption or the perception that everything's always changing. So focusing on high leverage CIs doesn't make sense, or they just don't put their energy towards it because
No, I think they're focusing on CIs. It's almost like they're completing the last 20% of the ones that I brought in, right? And it's
got it.
not that they're never doing CIs on their own. It's that I think honestly that's a decent amount of energy, right? Um, and I
Cleaning
think,
up your messes, you're saying?
yeah, I mean, like
And
the
there's nothing
products,
wrong with like
yeah, yeah,
I've I've done the same thing, and
yep,
that's why I'm challenging you on it a little bit,
yep,
Michael, is to get other people looking at those CIs. Because I know that can be painful in a culture at times if
yep.
you're the only one chasing it and then they never get the win, they only get the 20% sweep up.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, and I guess to be
it's tough.
transparent, like right now I have my senior engineer on leave through the end of this month. And I have we really need to be selling 2 intraloads a month, right? To be as profitable as I want to be, and I have more leads than I've ever had on that front, and none of them have closed, and I think a lot of them are close. You never know; these things can kind of randomly close quickly. Um, you know, I think where I'm at is like I need to have another engineer. I need to have another guy on the shop floor. But then I look at my profitability numbers, and that makes me not want to hire those people, right? Um, so
Did you get your line of credit set up?
we don't have a line of credit right now, no.
Okay. I'll say, because that's been things in the past that I've done. Those are good reasons to use line of credit, is when you see that pain and you have a
Mhm.
growth opportunity, you hire that person that you didn't necessarily have the justification for today, but you know they can create it. And those
Mhm.
have paid some significant dividends for development
Yeah,
fast. But you have to be very strategic because you're betting hard
yeah.
and betting long.
One thing though I've been thinking about with the extra load, we had one customer, come by and actually fly out to us for intro load, and they just said, okay, it doesn't have enough pallets, right? And I've had two other customers tell me something that seemed, like customers of other products who were looking at Intraload, tell me something that seemed insane, which was the only reason I would buy a UMC 500 or a UMC 750 is so I could put the Intraload on it, right? Because like these automation cells are like 200 grand, right? So,
Yeah.
and they're seeing the opportunity to buy a complete solution that has integrated automation for 200 grand.
Yep.
And yeah, I hear that and I'm like, oh, if we come out with the extra load and it meets the target price point I want, I feel like life will get so much easier to close these sales because it opens up the market so broadly, right? And then there's also just the utter insanity of like having mapped this out, like 60 pallets. And I did the math and I'm like, our direct cost to make the pallets for us in house is like $20,000 to just make the pallets, like, um, let alone 1,200 bucks a pop for a nice vise, right? Um, presumably no one's going to populate that all the way out immediately, but um, I just
I don't know.
that's
Things have
true.
surprised me in automation.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
people find ways to make money in amazing ways.
yeah. Um, I just really believe in that product, and I'm trying to do it slow in the right way and not create too much chaos. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I have that question of how aggressive to be, and you're right to push me on the CIs because we should be doing more than just the guys cleaning up my mess or doing better organization, right? That we should be creating bigger initiatives overall from the shop floor.
Maybe not just bigger initiatives, but actually, I'm going to retract that comment. It doesn't have to be bigger initiatives. I'm going to state
Yep.
it that way. I think you just need to give your team ownership that they can do CIs. Where Develop started with our CIs it was a 2x2. We called it 2 hours, $200. Don't ask.
Yep.
You just inform the team when the CI is done. I need to actually go up to, I should do that this week because I should change our CIs to like 1x1s and call them $1,000 in one day. And you don't ask, you just do. Like that's what I need to
Right.
increase ours to because our culture's
Yeah.
gotten so good around these.
Yeah, you're right. I need to formalize that too. And even if it's a lower number or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, and just let them go and say, you don't have to ask for permission. As long as you find a way to make us more money, we're doing it.
Cool. Yeah. I got 5 more minutes because we're already
Okay.
5 minutes over time. I got a meeting right after this. Any other CI stuff you want to talk about?
I think that should be it.
And then I guess rolling right onto accountability. I mean, mine was the extra load scoping, which obviously I've done, and I'm proud that I didn't burn 2 work days on it. Right. I've done that in the past and put, maybe sales or marketing or other priorities to the side and didn't do that this time. Cool.
I don't know what to say. Sorry. I got distracted. Something else that came in.
I guess for you, yours was pretty much execute from last week. You'll have to remind me what
pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yours, like you said, the extra load, and then me was just execute. It's kind of in the grind.
What about next week? What's your accountability item for next week?
That's a good question. I was kind of going through. I was writing down ideas prior to this or chatting with ChatGPT. I can kind of go through what it. One thing that I've been trying to do is like for too long is probably the better way to put it. A lot of my weekends was just like getting tasks done that I couldn't get done during the week. And I've been trying to free those up for, good example is actually what you're doing with the extra load is like higher leverage things for the business is getting that time on there is really what I'm trying to focus more on. And so really what I like is the first 4 hours of my Sunday is focusing on that. I think that's really what I need to just do this week or the next couple weeks is just focusing on high leverage things for the business in the beginning of my Sundays. Yeah. And that's it. And in general, that's kind of trickling into the rest of the week. But if I focus on it, then I can help drive that throughout the week.
Okay. So set aside 4 hours and
it's all high leverage.
High leverage tasks on Sunday.
Yeah.
For me, there's 2 pretty large turnkey projects that I need to get the really detailed scoping on, and I think really plan for this month. Those are the things that I need to do by next week.
As in August or like the next 30 days, you're saying?
No. Like, our turnkeys are fairly limited in scope. Both of these projects are between 50 and 75% done. I think one of them we're supposed to complete by end of this month. One we're supposed to complete by end of September. I need to scope them out and make sure those Gantt charts are accurate, and really make sure everything is prepped to be on time.
Okay. I think that sounds like a good
cool
task. I'm gonna type that up here quick so I don't forget.
And then I guess just a challenge or personal item for this week.
I think you need to be looking at how do you get your team doing CIs for you. Like the kitting and bagging one is one arguably you should be building a culture that they should be helping drive a lot of those. I
Mhm.
think it's fine given where you're at because I went through the exact same pains. I just would be challenging you sheet metal or maybe some of this kitting stuff. Give somebody else the ownership of it. Describe what you're expecting and you not do it.
Yep, gotcha.
That would
Cool.
be the one thing I'd see.
Thank you so much for listening to Matt and I's conversation this week on the Manufacturing Automation Podcast. If you like the podcast, please share it with a friend or give us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. We'll be back next week to continue sharing our respective journeys in life, business, and industrial automation. Thanks so much.